Hey guys, this is Rick and Rich with Taps and Tumblers. Good to see you tonight. Glad you could join us. Rich, we got Sarah Todd coming, right?
We sure do.
Olde Hickory Brewing Company on a combination that Rich has taken all the credit for. But beyond that, Rich.
Yes, sir.
What do we have tonight?
So tonight we're going to be tapping our one-of-a-kind Olde Hickory Cask of the Event Horizon, batched with orange and chocolate. Fuggle hops, which is going to be a British-style stout hop, and then aged in hickory barrels.
All right, and this is something that you sent some flavors up and asked them to create this for you.
Yes, sir.
So what was your thought process?
I love the combination of chocolate and orange. I really thought that this would work well. They gave me an option of hops, and I thought the Fuggle hops is going to be the best as far as stouts go.
Okay.
And the hickory was one I just picked out of the list.
Gotcha, right. Well, I'll tell you what, it's here, 70 beers worth. We're going to try it tonight, and we're going to see how it tastes. Really looking forward to seeing what they came up with. So, yeah, we'll be back with you here in a minute. Guys, we got Sarah Todd here who's going to show us how to make the Hickory today. Oh, just kidding, no. So, no, we're here with Rich, Sarah Todd, Olde Hickory Brewing Company. Gracious enough to come down here, drive all this way to do the tasting tonight. And, yeah.
Miss Sarah Todd.
Yeah.
How did you get into the whole brewing thing? How did you find Olde Hickory that long ago?
Yeah.
From New York.
So I went to school for fermentation sciences. It started out as kind of a love affair with winemaking and growing grapes, and was very fortunate to get to work a harvest. Near Kentucky, Ohio area, there were some vineyards there. It's about in 8th grade when I told my parents, I was like, all right, I don't know if this is a thing, but I want to go to college for fermentation. And once I was at Cornell University, did a lot of the grape winemaking, loved it. But my sophomore year, they announced they were going to do a brewing class. And I was like, yes, sign me up. Then they had a distilling class as well. So really enjoyed it. After I took them, I was asked if I could help teach them and do some kind of labs with students, and was working in the student winery / brewery / distillation center, and it really just clicked with me. Again, it was something about that, anybody could have this little setup,
Right.
You didn't have to really have an orchard, have a vineyard. My parents had moved down to Hickory, North Carolina. I'd had some of the beers while I was in town visiting, loved them. Kind of begged to become an intern with Steven, one of the owners of Olde Hickory Brewery, and learned so much within a month. It was like a crash course, just everything: brewing, bottling line, packing off, keg cleaning, a lot of keg cleaning, and that's really where you kind of get to prove myself and learn the brunt end of it.
But at that time, were there a lot of female brewers? Were there a lot of people that you could kind of follow in the footsteps, or you kind of blazing a trail?
Yeah, so as of 2014, about 4% of brewers were female. As of 2017, we're up to 7.5%. So small little growth, but it's happening. And so, it's whatever you're into, and really the physicalities of it, it's, if you can lift 75 pounds, some men can lift more, some females can lift more. That's just kind of part of it. So,
and how much of it also is universities starting to offer these courses where you can go, take a brewery course,
that's
or
immense.
A brewing course.
That is an immense part of it, and making it accessible and fun, while also turning it into something that's not just a college course. Oh, we get to drink in class, which is great. It's really, really unfortunate to then kind of do a sign off and say, even if you're not 21, if it is for educational, academic purposes, you're able to do that. So a lot of the universities, it's a struggle, and the universities have to really work at it and kind of be selective of their students. So you're learning a lot. There's a lot of science, a lot of chemistry. I took a lot of soil science, from anything farming to hops, grapes, barley. So that was really cool, because you can approach the product looking at everything, which I think that's how you get quality.
So we were just talking to the gentleman from NODA, and they were talking about where they secure their hops from. What hop farms are you pulling from?
Most of it is in Washington and Oregon. That is still, they're huge exporters. It's great because they're here. Anything, really right now, North Carolina, South Carolina have tried kind of mountainous areas to grow. it's really small quantities. So when you start brewing, thousands of barrels per year, it's hard to keep up that quantity. So as much as you would love to do everything local,
You couldn't keep it consistent.
you can't. Yeah, you can't keep it consistent.
Do you
even
partner
just
with
the
anybody
average.
else to go pull hops?
We used to do more of that. Now, the hops we like, and we'll do some experimental. We're starting to get more and more large shipments, which is great because you learn what you love. I mean, this year, like hot Calypso, and we've had really fun with El Dorado. Azaka's a new one that's kind of out there. That's something still, if you work with like Hopsteiner or Yakima, you can get these big quantities. So you can go in, maybe do a small batch and then knock out a 20 barrel batch right off.
What about yeast? Are you guys making your own yeast? Are you guys pulling from White Labs? Or?
Yeah, so White Labs is a huge one we use. We really have 3 main house strains, and this whole hazy beer thing has brought around the New England yeast.
Tell me it's somewhere locked in a safe and there's
Yeah.
like armed guards and the
Yes.
whole nine.
Yeah, a lot how our it's treated a lot like our Weihenstephaner yeast, the 3068, which leads to that kind of hazy.
Please go
beer.
into that.
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, so we there's different kinds of yeast, and some have a really low flocculation or high flocculation, which means they drop out. So during the brew process, if you want a really nice clean beer, our Pilsner I'm pretty happy with is 2007 yeast, which has a really nice high flocculate, so it all kind of drops out.
Giving you a nice, clean, crisp color,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. With something like a wheat beer, kind of the Weihenstephaner style, which we have a Hefeweizen at Olde Hickory. That's 3068. Weihenstephaner's a very German yeast, and it is prolific. Once it goes, it's just going.
Right.
And that is very low flocculation, so beer stays hazy, and that's part of it. So that's something you can do if you're trying to get a hazy beer.
What's your opinion on that? I mean, that's a
Just for the
huge
record,
praise.
no additives for the haze, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is a big thing that I think every brewer right now is dealing with, kind of this love-hate. We all love the juicy IPAs, the flavor profile of a juicy IPA. But yeah, you don't really want to add stuff. We did some small batch kind of experimentation, even something like, little cylinders. Looking at, you can add tannins, which are naturally occurring. You can add,
Pectin.
wheat things, yes, pectin. Oats are going to add more protein, rolled oats, rolled wheat, all of that, which helps add that natural haze. We never really wanted to add anything like,
Good.
flour or
Right.
a tannin stabilizer. So we've kind of stepped back even from that and said, really, if something's not naturally hazy, if the yeast are happy and they're flocculating out, you have a clear beer, we're just trying to get that aroma. I mean, the
Right.
flavor and the aroma, and that's Calypso, Lemon Drop. I love those hops. Right now, we'll be canning Friday. I don't know when this is going to come out. But yeah, so Tropicana is a very juicy,
Is that,
bright,
is that new? I don't think I've heard of that.
yeah. This is inside deets, yeah.
Good, yeah.
So, Tropicana is kind of where we took our hazy beer and just amped up all of that flavor. No haze, really, attempt. It's still got some of the rolled oats, and it has malted wheat in it, but that's what I love. I mean, about any of the haze is kind of summarized down into that beer, but it's clear.
Now you'll start canning it. How quickly do you get it out? And do you hit your tap rooms there locally first?
Yeah,
and then-
locally it usually goes first. It'll be on draft soon as well. But package wise, cans probably within several weeks.
Okay.
We'll make it out down here. So
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
how do you deal with the the gentleman we were talking to with Noto was talking about how he tests his IPAs and that 3-month kind of mark where everybody goes, that's your time really. Do you find that you kind of hit that mark pretty consistently, or do you find that you're hitting? I think his words were between day 1 and day 9 was the biggest change. 9 to 15 there was a
Right.
slight change. 15 to 45 there was no change. Do you kind of fall in the same lines there?
yeah, so all of our beers, especially our IPAs, we pay close attention to, and in the lab, anything that's bottled or canned, we age it and we force age it, which is really, really helpful to see how is this going to sit. And usually we'll do a week, which replicates. We can do a 3-month kind of looking at it in a 6 month what it would be like.
So that's keeping at a certain temperature for a
Yes,
certain
heating it
amount
up.
of time. Yeah.
So it's kind of force aging that beer, and you can also tell with the carbonation, because carbonation, the hop flavors, the hop mouthfeel is going to change, and that's really what you want to look for in this beer, especially if it's something juicy and you're trying to get those fresh around this. I'd say in general are pretty happy. I mean, especially if it's really heavily hopped. If you guys are into Death by Hops, that beer seems to hold up forever. I mean, we've done the force aging 6 months, and it maybe, yeah. I mean, it's still so
Delicious.
bright. Yeah. I mean, it really is. I mean, we've used the Calypso and Lemon Drop before, and we're loving the results. If they last that long on the shelf, I think we've sold out half of it already and
Awesome.
in cans. So, yeah, it's exciting. But hops, and that's the great thing. Hops were added to beer
Natural
originally
preservative.
as a preservative, stabilizer. So, especially with those bright tropical beers, I mean, it just seems to keep a really bright, fresh tasting beer.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you getting into the Pink Boot Society.
Mm-hmm.
And how long have you been with them?
So it's been probably about 2 years now. When I started Olde Hickory, I kind of immediately was on the radar. They really just helping networking, education. They do a lot of scholarships for women brewers, but they're helping promote women brewers and something that, as we were saying, is very male dominant, or has been. So every month there'll be different chapters. There's one here in Charlotte, and there's one in Asheville. So in terms of North Carolina, places to look for. And they put things together throughout the year, little symposiums, educational things, as well as yearly Beer to Femme, which is a beer festival that hosts upwards of 30, 40 breweries with female brewers or female, incorporated in the brewing process, which is awesome. All the funds of that go back to scholarships and all of that.
That's great.
And last year it was great. It was at Highland Brewing. So much fun. We brewed a special beer for that, and we'll be brewing it again this year. So I'm
Awesome.
super excited. It was a recipe I actually designed, and it's got hibiscus flowers and chamomile. So a little bit of pink in it, just to kind of, up the pink boots. But, and we're trying to work on more sours. So I love the D9 sours.
I was
I'd
just
love to
about
do
to get
sours
into
with
that.
her.
So
Yeah.
is there a specific style that you would say is your forte? That is like, this is my wheelhouse. I knock these out the park all the time. I
Yeah.
want to work more on this style. Like, talk to me about that.
So we talked about the Weihenstephaner yeast. I love it. It's such a great yeast. If you guys like wheat beers, you get the banana, you get the clove, just straight out punch. And that actually wraps in really well with, so the recipe I made last year ended up being a wheat beer, floral wheat beer. And wheat beers to me are just fun. You've got that kind of complexer mouthfeel, a lot of the aromas. So I love brewing Hefeweizen, but also trying these different beers that are off branches of it. So
I was going to say, so talk to me about that. So you've got wheats, you've got Hefeweizens, what are the different styles?
Yeah.
And how are they differentiated?
So a lot of it is color, clarity. If you have something that does kind of become more clear, so you can have like a Crystal Weiss, which is a clear wheat beer, and then your percent of wheat. So we'll do like wheat and Ida pills, getting that balance of mouthfeel in that, but the hugest playing role in that is the yeast, which is what I love. I love the chemistry of it, the biology of that. And this actually wraps back with the hazies and the wheat beers. So something when I was at GABF this past year,
Which is?
the Great American Beer Festival. So it's in Colorado every year. It's great. If you can go, just go. It's awesome. There was a talk from a couple different brewers that were in Denver, and they were using yeast to try to get that beer hazy. So instead of adding other things, and that really just kind of struck me, and I was like, we have this wheat beer yeast, typically used with wheat beers. We add a little bit of wheat to hazy beers usually. Why not try it? So that's actually going to be.
That's so smart.
Yeah. So I've made this recipe for our collaboration brew day, and it's going to be called Queen's Royal Jelly,
Hey.
and it's going to have some honey in it because Event Horizon, Olde Hickory, we love our honey. We add honey to
Local honey, yes.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a beekeeper myself, so I love it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it'll be wheat, but it'll be using the Weizenspano yeast, and just see where that takes it. So I'm adding, a lot of our kind of, we're using the Pink Boots blend this year. So every year, actually at GABF, the ladies kind of get together, do some hop rubbing, smell it, and we tell Yakima hops, this is what we want, in our blend this year. So all the different brews use the same hops. But all these different styles, which is really cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, everyone pick from the same thing, but let's see what you can do.
Exactly.
It's so cool.
Yeah. So it's got some Azaka, some Idaho Gem, El Dorado, a couple others. It's 5 hops, which is crazy. It's like 12.5 alpha. So it's got a good bit of punch to it, but very tropical, still kind of piney. Which, by the way, is still on order. So if anybody wants to, some of the funds go back to Pink Boots. Really fun. You can get little, homebrew 2-ounce things of the Pink Boots blend.
Okay.
All the way up to brew scale. But yeah, using those hops and some of the kind of other fun stuff, I'm really excited to see, because it's like the two worlds of like hazy IPA and wheat beer come together. So we'll see.
Awesome.
Well, let's talk about this cask. Let's
Yeah.
talk about Event Horizon,
Yeah.
the Event Horizon.
An imperial stout with honey, and barrel aged.
Okay.
So barrel aged is the bread and butter of this, and is probably
Bourbon aged.
Yeah, bourbon barrel aged is, so we use a lot of Buffalo Trace, Rebel Yell.
Well, would that be the char that I'm picking up?
Yeah, so there's a good bit of char, caramelization, and the crazy thing with Event, no matter what year you're tasting, is the complexity of all those barrels. So usually a batch, of Event Horizon will include about 50 barrels, different barrels. And going back to kind of, the lab side of microbiology, every single barrel has to be tested. So we do the micros and make sure each barrel is clean. We sample each and every barrel before they're blended back together. And that is something that never becomes less magical to me. It's just going through and kind of picking out, what do you like about this barrel? We'll run it by anywhere to two to 5 noses. Do you like it? Is it spectacular? Is it something we should hold back and maybe put in something else? And if it's something that we're like, we're not crazy about it, we'll check the micros, see if it's clean, first of all. But at the end of the day, if we don't like the flavors, we'll just nix it. And that can be thousands of dollars down the drain, just that have sat for a year. You've had to keep that barrel safe and then be like, all right, bye, didn't make the cut. So that's, part of the kind of like amazingness that ends up in the bottle. Because that each and every barrel was like taken care of. You can have a leaky barrel and you tended to each barrel. So that's really cool about it. And with this, a lot of it's trying to use the flavors that are already there. So, you'll get that smoky, some caramelization from the barrel, chocolate from Event Horizon. Event Horizon to me already, like, when you're brewing and it just smells like chocolate, which I love. So I always love adding, cocoa nibs, which this one got a little bit. And this year, more requests than ever to do either like a cherry chocolate or orange chocolate. So you just think like chocolate box, candies.
So I wasn't the first? Aww.
Yeah, bummer, no. But I do, we hadn't had anybody ask for, kind of these different hops. Fuggle's hops to me are really underutilized. I think they've maybe gone down a little bit. Because people just think cheesy. People are like, oh, it's just old.
Yeah.
But that, you can play with that and make it so great and complex. Like, I love, mixing that kind of bright with something maybe a little bit of old. And we've actually, I've worked on doing some, like, force-aged hops, if you will, and adding it to something like an ESB, extra special bitter, or a different type of pale ale. Cask is great, because you'll get some of that kind of old British, be it cheese or
Funk.
almost garlic. Yeah, I mean, which I think that's so cool that you can get from like a hop.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun. Orange, I always love adding orange though to a beer, but Event, it just takes things so well, and it's already such a complex beer that it's kind of like, why not? Put something in there to make it even more candy-esque, which I think that.
By adding the Fuggle, are we increasing the ABV at all? No? So it
shouldn't be.
8.5 is where it should be sitting?
8.5 ABV. I think I have to fact check this, but a lot of our events have gone up because just barrel aging and the angel share. So this past year, I want to say one of our batches were like 12.3, so we had to change our labels.
Wow.
Yeah, which is another very, very important if you're a brewer. Double check your numbers. Always double check your numbers, because those labels, I mean, that's something that, one, federally, legally, you have to do. But also, I mean, the consumer, you want to know what type of ABV you're drinking. And flavors. Seems like if it's higher alcohol, you can almost add more vanilla, say, and a little bit with the chocolate, and it takes that flavor even better. Yeah. A lot of that's extraction. So if you put just a straight vanilla bean pod, which we will do, we have straight Madagascar vanilla bean, and there's so much ethanol in there that it just soaks up that flavor. It's great. But yeah, we can lose a lot of beer. So along with what you dump that doesn't make the cut, just through evaporation, it's the same with any distillate product in barrels as well.
When we're down in Miami, we go to this place to eat pizza, and this guy ships down the water from New York because he's wanting to taste like authentic, New York pizza, as someone who's into the science of it.
Yeah.
How much are you into trying to get the taste profile of the water matching the taste profile from the geographic area that you're looking at?
Yeah, it's really important. The main thing is to know your water. So if you're a home brewer, if you're a brewer, you've got to know your water. Is it hard? Is it soft? And then know what styles you like in your brewing. Right now with the hazy IPAs, you really need to kind of up the calcium in it. Helps with that haze and the color stability. So that's something we do add to the water in the mash tun.
Okay.
And it helps. If you want something, really light, this gets a little bit of phosphoric acid to kind of bring down that water pH.
Okay.
I know on the whiskey side of it, the sulfur in the water, they add a lot of that. Is that in the brewing side?
Yeah, so really great question. Yeah, so brew side, sulfur can be your arch nemesis and your friend. Depends. Yeah, so if you find a beer that smells, when you very first open it,
Like rotten eggs?
yeah, you get that sulfur smell.
Yeah.
They could have cleaned that up, be it during the fermentation process or before. Honestly, the one thing we do to just get rid of any sulfate sitting, because you want a little bit of sulfur sitting in the mash tun. It helps with some of the enzyme conversion, etc.
And mouthfeel, right, in the whiskey side of it. Any of that in the beer side of it?
Yeah, so some of that in the mash tun conversion, it might have something to do. What I usually look at is the aromas. If it's a hard or soft water, it will make a difference, and we'll use a calcium sulfate to kind of get that mouthfeel a little bit softer. But the aroma, that's why distillers use copper. So copper will actually cling to those sulfates and just strip it out, so you don't get into rotten egg smell. So when we run off, we just have a little copper fitting and just sit in the mash tun, and that takes care of it.
Oh, wow.
So it helps, when I was first starting home brewing, I didn't have a copper coil, you're using whatever hose you can find. That was the biggest upgrade. And, if you have enough time and you can let something air off, but then you risk getting oxygen on your beer. So that's easy first step, just put some copper in there.
So Olde Hickory, what's the direction that the brewery's going? What is up and coming? What are we thinking about in the future?
Barrel aging, doing really fun barrel aging projects is something like always on the horizon. We have some stuff going on right now. I don't have a date right now, but this insider info. We got some tequila barrels last year and did an imperial brown ale.
No way.
Aged in the tequila barrel. So about 2 months ago, we tapped into those and tried them, and just delicious. So happy with it. And for people who are into getting casks,
I just want to talk just real quick.
I mean,
the
there's so
caramel,
much.
the caramel from the brown and the caramel from the tequila. It's genius.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited about it. And around the time we were brewing the ale, I was in Asheville and I was drinking these, it was a mezcal mixed honey drink. So again, back to the honey. Love it. It just adds to me so much complexity. And had this idea, maybe eventually we'll get there, it's making specialty casks based off of kind of these old style mixed drinks. So if you had an imperial brown that's already got the tequila, so it's kind of that mezcal smoky, and then they add a little bit of honey and lavender. So doing a cask, a little bit of honey and lavender with this imperial brown barrel aged. The other thing we've done recently that some are out on draft now is we had an IPA and put that in a barrel, and it's crazy complex.
Well, let's talk about that. So if you've got a lifespan on your IPA and then now you've barrel aged it, talk to me.
And dry hopped it in the barrel.
No way.
Yeah.
So that's essentially steeping your beer in. It's almost like adding a tea bag to it to increase flavor, right?
So total mess to clean up, to rack, but it smelled amazing. So we have some of that on draft. One of them we did keg a couple weeks back. The other one we're still holding back, and we even putting it on nitro. So nitro barrel aged IPA. Those dry hops.
Get out of here! Wow.
So yeah, I mean that's the great thing is Steven is so open to playing with these just really fun ideas. Never would have thought about it before.
Sounds really expensive.
Yeah. I mean, you'll put like a bag, I mean, dry hopping in general. So that's something that a lot of brewers are kind of just like, oh man, I like the whirlpool hop editions, the dry hopped of a lot of these things, like, the hazy IPAs, and we were talking about Tropicana. It's insane the amount of hops that go in, which is risky. I mean, it's a lot of money. You want those hops to be clean. You don't want any bacteria getting into your clean beer through those hops. And you can have beer waste if you're not careful. So if you just go on YouTube and look up dry hopping gone wrong, you'll see these tanks just spewing green goo. So we're really careful, and we've been really fortunate that someone has to get up there on the forklift, take it off, pour them in really quick. And just 2 weeks ago when we dropped this last batch of Tropicana, as soon as you put those hops in, it just wants to go. I mean, we had both air, locks open. It was just going. So you close that off, because if anything starts to gush out, which it might, green hops and some of the Croissant from the beer.
Cleaning it.
Cleaning it, and that foam is beer, So you don't want to lose those flavors, and you just put all that in for the aromas. You don't want the aromas blowing off. So that's another aspect of it to really think about.
How important is what was in there, or is it not really matter at the point where they're aged casks?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So what was in the barrels is important, but what's even more important is how that barrel is cared for after. So after that distiller or even winemaker, sometimes we'll find winemakers, or we have a couple Armagnac barrels. After they emptied that barrel, what did they do? Did they put a little bit of spirit back there to help conserve it and keep it clean? Did they blast it, with ozone, which is ozonated air that it will sanitize it?
Oh, okay.
Did they put a nice airlock on it, or a bung to kind of keep it clean? Or do they put a piece of tape over it and not put anything back in it?
How do you figure that out? Just by
So when the truck pulls up, which before brewers had a really difficult time getting the barrels they wanted and the quantity that they wanted. I mean, you really had to handpick, go to distillers, say, can I please have like 5 of these? Yeah. So Steven did that for years, and now the craft brewing industry has such an immense demand and drain on the whole thing. Distillers are like, all right, I just want to deal with one person. So that's where the barrel brokers came into. They are awesome. If you are a brewer and you're looking for barrels, just look up like U.S. barrel brokers. They will basically let you say what type of barrels you want, how many, and they will drop off a truckload.
You got game in the industry. You are so enthusiastic about it. Where are you at in 10 years? You're creating, and it's like you're giving away your children when you give these out. Ultimately, where do you want to be? What's your ultimate goal?
I love Olde Hickory Brewery, and I'm definitely going to be there for a good while. I mean, I love what Steven's doing. The beers are phenomenal. He gives me enough freedom to make these fun recipes, try different things out.
Yeah, and you said he's up for trying all this stuff.
Yeah, and that's fantastic when you're at a brewery that's as old as you are. And you still feel like I can help create, which is really cool. I have some acreage outside of Hickory with beekeeping, starting a little orchard right now.
Oh, so you were serious when you said beekeeping. I thought you had a box in the backyard.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I've made cider for a long time. That's something that I'll probably I won't stop doing. It's my night job, kind of. Always
At no
be brewing.
point have you said that I'm going to open my own brewery. Is it something that you would like to do?
That's something, yeah, I mean, you know, definitely think about it, but brewing is very, very different than owning and a lot more business. That's something I've always been kind of like, I love creating. It's being on the ground and using my hands, you know. You got to do it, but the whole bookkeeping and money aspect of it isn't what I'm passionate about.
Gotcha.
It's getting the product out there. So however I can best do that, be it at Olde Hickory or starting something on my own. But that's something, you know, really, that's far down, and I'll have to kind of keep that open. But yeah, I mean, the cider industry is something that I definitely have an immense passion in. I've got the apple tree, so it's just kind of a waiting game on that. We'll see. But
Awesome.
Sarah, thank you so much. This
Yeah.
has been so
Yeah,
educational.
it has been. It has been
Yeah.
great, guys. All right, remember that face. Remember that name. It's you're gonna see it in the future, and she's doing great things for Olde Hickory right now. I have no doubt she'll be doing great things for her in the future. And yeah, let's go out there and see what we got. Thank you for coming.
yeah, thanks for having me, guys.